Every person is conceived with a set of rights or inalienable choices that cannot be rescinded, revoked, or abrogated. All persons have civil rights, grounded in, attached to, and an integrated element of, civil society. All persons have an inalienable right to be radical or autocratic. Radicals are self-reliant and seek sustainability within a flat organization or market. Autocrats seek power as a path to the accumulation of property. The ultimate aim of an autocrat is to possess the earth or as much of it as they can to the fullest extent possible. First among all our civil rights is our right to be free of autocrats. Civil liberties pertain to radicals. Autocrats abjure civil rights as a hindrance to the exercise of power. Radicals have a right not to be imposed upon by autocrats seeking access to property. Radicals believe no one is born in debt nor with an obligation owing to autocrats. An infringement of our civil liberties is an obligation that compels us to provide resources or property to an autocrat or liberal institution. Liberalism is the agency through which autocrats work. Civil rights restrict limitation on our civil liberties. A civil liberty is the right to be free of civil duties. Civil rights are not God-breathed, they are created by radicals. Human rights pertain to and coexist with God. Human rights pertain to all persons everywhere and include such things as the right to life and our right to what we create. Civil rights are human conventions coextensive with civil society. Civil rights are elements of civilization. All human beings have a right to be logical and do the right thing. There is no obligation on anyone to fund, support or otherwise give credence to any reality other than their own. A reality that is not sustainable is a fiction. A priorians believe there are two races and two realities and two ideologies. One is radical, the other liberal. Conservatism is not the opposite of liberalism, but radicalism is. Radicals reject the idea there is one race coextensive with the concept of we the people. We the people is an abstraction based on the liberal view of reality. Radicals are not liberals and do not subscribe to the liberal view of reality. There are two races and two realities, and these manifest as two unique and irreconcilable cultures or worldviews. Each race has his own unique consciousness and way of seeing reality. The left and the right narrative suggests there is but one race and therefore one people that has political differences. The division goes deeper and creates a wider divide than this viewpoint suggests. Liberals think what they see is real. Liberals are phenomenologists and they believe their senses provide them with a good representation of what exists. In the liberal worldview, words are just words and ideas are mental events without substance. Liberals tend to live in the here and now. Liberals are governed by feelings and make choices based on how they feel. Liberal politicians are less concerned about principles than what produces a positive reaction. Conservatives generally just wish to be let alone. Radical conservatives want engagement based on markets. Governments can do little or nothing for radicals. This is why radicalism is adamantly opposed by the left. The desire for autonomy and self-reliance of radicals is why all politicians are to some degree left or just right of center. Radicals are motivated by principle. Radicals are justified by faith. Being justified by faith requires radicals remain true to the commitments they make. If a person has faith, he or she becomes trustworthy and predictable. This is one reason why radicals have stable marriages. Radicals are not governed by emotions and are faithful because they are committed. Radicals believe in justice, not because of emotion but because justice means accounts are reconciled. Liberal governments express the autocrat's rule, that might makes right and the end justifies the means. All autocracies are founded on this doctrine. Autocracies strive to accumulate property as the physical manifestation of power and of glory and secular truth. In liberalism, one is as legitimate as one is rich. The centralization of power and property prevents accounts from being reconciled and justice from being enacted, as this is tantamount to the same thing. An injustice is a divestment of property based on force. Justice is the reconciliation of accounts so that expropriations and theft is reversed, and property restored to its owner. Autocrats have a concept of ownership based on the exercise of power. This autocratic form of ownership has two versions, the private and public forms. Both forms are, however, based on the power to expropriate wealth and property from its rightful owner. True ownership is absolute and flows from the Creation Act. Radical ownership is the ownership of what one created. Radicals have a right to what they create and deny the right of anyone to make a claim against anything created by them. Radicals believe all progress is formed from specialization. Civilization is a measure of the level of specialization in a political jurisdiction. Without specialization, we remain in a primitive state. Civilization exists in direct proportion to the level of specialization. Expropriation and regulation reduce the rate and extent of specialization. This is also referred to as corrupting the mechanisms of the market. The market is not a thing, it is simply specialized individuals reconciling accounts. There is a line between radicals and liberals, and it is most clearly seen in our accounting. Liberals are grasping, avaricious materialists who live to acquire property. An aspect of this is their monetary system, which is issued as a means of exchange, or monetized asset. A monetized asset is a physical commodity issued in denominations to facilitate trade, but nevertheless, a thing of value in its own right. Liberal money is a commodity as well as a means of exchange, therefore a thing that determines its own value. This creates inflation as the commodity is issued in such numbers that its value decreases, thereby inflating the currency. The monetary unit of radicals is based on the equity of the radical organization. Equity is issued as preferred shares, so the currency of a radical group is a unit of account, having no value, being only a tool for use by accountants to track exchanges and thereby reconcile accounts. The fundamental difference between radical and liberal is their accounting and the fact that radicals reconcile their accounts and liberals are unable to do this. This would not matter, but failing a way to reconcile accounts, liberals are driven to be autocratic operationally. This difference between the radical and autocrat is what divides radical from autocrat. Radicals are radicals because their purpose is to differentiate themselves from autocracy and its manifestation in liberalism. Liberals are grounded in power, in the raw exercise of power as an expression of their legitimacy. Might makes right, and the end justifies the means gives liberals no way to determine the success of a venture or the merit of a program beyond its success. If it fails, it was the wrong thing to do. Everything hinges on making the program or operation work. Radicalism is nothing more than a systematic and total rejection of this position. Everything a radical does attempts to separate them and their institutions from this total reliance on power. Radicalism exists and succeeds to the degree it no longer embraces liberalism and the autocrat rule. This is where the golden rule comes in. It is a rejection of and an alternative to the autocrat's rule. To do unto others as you would have them do unto you is a radical plan and in direct contrast to the premise that might makes right. It preempts the use of force by having us model what we know is right behavior. In practice, it involves initiating an exchange, because we would desire them to initiate an exchange with us. Do we want them to give and give without a fair exchange? This is a power imbalance and what autocrats expect. But if we want to be an autocrat, we are condemned to serve all those who we wanted to serve us. The alternative to the use of force is the golden rule. To do unto others as we would have them do unto us initiates an exchange. Radicalism requires us to do something for others that encourages them to respond in kind. This creates a market and the basis of specialization, which is the source of all progress and civilization.